The attendance at the UFL games in week 2 was very up and down. You obviously had some very good things like in St. Louis and DC, and then you had whatever the heck was happening in Michigan and Memphis. The TV ratings, though, that's a whole nother story in all the best ways. Welcome everybody to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jerry, and I'm representing the 904 from the 602, and today, much like last week, we are here to talk about the UFL and the TV ratings for week 2. Obviously, week 1, you're going to get a lot of eyeballs because it is the new league, the merger of the XFL and the USFL. But what's going to happen in week 2? What were the numbers going to be like? Especially because this was a pretty stacked week in terms of competition. The UFL was going up against the men's Final Four and was going up against the women's national championship in college basketball between Iowa and South Carolina, the most watched women's basketball game of all time. What would the ratings look like? Well, we have the data, and folks, it is very, very good. The first game between San Antonio and Memphis drew 718,000 viewers on average. The night game between Arlington and St. Louis, that game drew 908,000 viewers. Birmingham, Michigan, that game on Sunday drew 903,000 viewers. And then the game going up directly against the women's national championship, the Houston Roughnecks against the DC Defenders, 849,000 viewers on average, but it peaked at 1.4 million for the final 30 minutes of the contest after the Iowa-South Carolina game ended, jumping 29%. A lot of people switching over from ABC to Fox to watch the end of that game once the Iowa-South Carolina game was over. So average viewership for week 2, 842,000 viewers. Last week, it was 1.048 million on average. It dipped to 842,000. It's a 20% decrease, but this is very, very good. I am pleasantly shocked by how high the ratings are, because when you compare it to the XFL last year, the USFL last year, the USFL in 2022, you compare it to the 3 seasons that we have in spring football in the post-pandemic era, it is very, very promising. So week 2 of 2023 in the XFL, your average viewership was 647,000 viewers. This is 842,000. So 24% increase year to year from 2023. The highest viewed game in week 2 of the XFL season in 2023 was the game between the San Antonio Brahmas and the Orlando Guardians. That game drew 781,000 viewers on average. 3 out of the 4 games that took place in week 2 drew a higher average viewership than that, which is really, really promising. Now, again, that was in week 2 of 2023, comparing it to that, when there wasn't a whole lot of competition. There was not really a whole lot going on in the sports world at the end of February. What about Final Four weekend last year? Well, Final Four weekend last year was week 7. The average viewership for the XFL that week was 350,000. The most viewed game was the Battlehawks Roughnecks game, and that drew 502,000 viewers. There was one game that week that drew only 177,000 viewers. You have basically more than double the viewership that you had at the same weekend last year. Not a single game drew anywhere even close to 350,000 viewers in week 2 this year. Not a single game drew even close to what their peak was last year during Final Four weekend of 502,000. Every game blew right past that, which is really, really good to see. You have to be very, very pleased in that regard. But what about on the USFL side? Well, for week 2 of the 2023 season, the average viewership for the USFL was 466,000. This week, you had 842,000. So an increase of 45% from last year, from week 2 of 2023 to week 2 of 2024. Even if we just count over-the-air games on Fox and NBC, because the USFL did air some games on cable, that's an average of 761,500 viewers. This week, 842,000 viewers, including games on cable, a noticeable increase from that. And remember, USFL Week 2 2023 was in the spring. No competition. One of the most saturated times for sports on TV is right now, when the UFL played their Week 2 games. One of the most saturated times of the Final Four on the men's side and the women's side. A lot of stuff happening, and the fact that they blew past that is incredible to see. Now, yes, no game cracked 7 figures. 2 games did last week. Birmingham, Arlington cracked 7 figures. St. Louis, Michigan cracked 7 figures. But that is fine, and that was expected. Because again, this went up against the Final Four on the men's and the women's side, as in events that draw 8 figures of viewership on average, including the women's game, which had an average viewership of somewhere around 18 million, and the UFL was competing against that. This is incredible counter program. I said last week, I think I said that, if the UFL drew 700,000 viewers, it would be good. They're going to get a massive decrease, but 700,000 considering the competition they're going up against, considering the women's side, would be very, very good. 842,000 is absolutely insane, especially because the drop-off from week 1 to week 2 was only 20%. So not a lot of novelty factor here. Not a lot of people tuning out after 1 week trying to see what this league is and then not watch it anymore. People are here to stay. People are here to stay. For some comparison, the drop-off from week 1 to week 2 in the 2023 version of the XFL, you went from 1.299 million in week 1 to 647,000 in week 2. That's a 50% decrease. And yes, I know that in week 2 of the XFL season, you had 2 games on FX. One of them was on a Thursday night, but even with just the ESPN games factored in, the numbers, the 50% drop-off is similar. The 2023 USFL, the drop-off from week 1 to week 2 was a lot. 789,500 viewers on average in week 1, 466,000 viewers on average in week 2. That's a 40% decline. Yes, you had 1 game on FS1, 1 game on USA Network, but no game cracked 800,000 viewers on linear television, Fox or NBC, and all 3 linear games comfortably did that in week 1. So you had a 50% decline in 2023 with the XFL, 40% decline in 2023 from week 1 to week 2 with the USFL, just a 20% decline from week 1 to week 2, even despite going up against the Final Four on the men's and the women's side. If we want to go back even further, the drop-off from week 1 to week 2 in the 2022 USFL, so the 3 seasons of spring football in a post-pandemic era, went from 1.565 million to 662,000. Your audience was slashed by a lot. You only brought about a third of the audience back from week 1. So very, very good signs that even with all that competition, the UFL is still holding strong in the ratings. 842,000, I think executives have to be very, very pleased about that. ESPN and Fox have to be very, very pleased about that. And you can't even say that it was a destroying bump and that people want to watch because of destroying and that'll be gone now, because San Antonio had the worst viewership in week 2. So it doesn't matter. The destroying effect did absolutely nothing. 842,000 viewers on average, and that's with San Antonio having the weakest ratings of the bunch. Really, really good sign. Now, in terms of week 3, could I see any game drawing 7 figures in terms of the ratings? Sunday's going to be tough because you're competing against the Masters. Now, if the final round of the Masters is not that good, you might see it. But I could definitely see Saturday night's game on Fox between the Birmingham Stallions and the Memphis Showboats, seeing as you're not going to have any competition with the Masters. It's on linear television. I could definitely see that game drawing 7 figures on average. I think that's got to be the goal. 842,000 is a very good number for week 2. I have a feeling they're going to be aiming for 900,000 on average in week 3, with one of those games, that being Birmingham-Memphis, drawing in the 7-figure range. So we'll see what happens with the ratings, but people are tuning into this league, and people seem to be really liking this league, and that's a very good sign. At the end of the day, this league is going to survive and is going to hang on based on the TV ratings and based on whether ESPN and Fox want to continue broadcasting this league and continue promoting this league. And based on these ratings, very, very promising in that regard. But what are your thoughts on the UFL Week 2 TV ratings? Do you think they were higher than expected? Were they lower than expected? Anything that surprised you with the ratings? What are your thoughts on the Week 3 ratings? What do you think they're going to be? Do you think they crack 7 figures for any of the games? Do you think they crack 7 figures on average? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And that's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. Helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, JaguarGator9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. And we also live stream all of the games for the UFL. We do live play-by-play and color commentary for everything, so you don't want to miss a moment of the action on that channel. So thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, JG9 signing off, and as always, go Jags.